Hello my dear friends, I hope you all are doing good. This is Prashant Mamani and I welcome all of you to StudyIQ. Dear friends, the topic that we are going to discuss today is police reforms in India. The reason why I have decided to have a sort of detailed conversation with you regarding this particular topic is that, first of all, if you go to your syllabus, then you will find that you'd be happy to know that it is clearly given there that the role of civil services in democracy. The second thing is, if you go to your past papers, then you will find that in your mains examination you will find at least one question, right, that is directly related with civil services or the importance of civil services. The third thing is that many of you would be aspiring to become IPS, that is Indian Police Service Officers, isn't it? And for you, you can easily understand that they can ask you a question in your interview as well. You could be asked a question like why you want to join police services, knowing that the police reforms are still not applied in police services. So why do you want to join these things, etc., etc. And one more thing that I would like to add here, and it is last one, but it is of course not the least, that there are a couple of items that are included in this particular lecture that are pertaining to your prelims examination, right? So I have kept a fine balance of analytical things, some sort of factual things as well. So this will help you with your prelims examination. And having said that, please allow me to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses. For different exams like SSC Bank, UPSC and other government exams, StudyIQ offers different pen drive and tablet courses. The good thing about them is that they are designed by the best faculties of our country. The other thing is that at present there is a 33% flat discount going on, and this is going on because of pre-Diwali season, right? Diwali is going to hit us on the 19th of this month, so you have very few days to go. So if you haven't got it, get it now. And if you have any further question or queries in your mind regarding it, you can feel free to give us a call on this number, or you can check out studyiq.com website as well. Now, dear friends, the first thing that I believe, generally speaking, pops up in our mind when we talk about police or police department or police people, I'm sure all of you will agree with this thing, and I'm not saying that every policeman is corrupted, but the big picture or the normal image, right, the general image is that the police people are engaged with corruption. The sensitive, they are also insensitive, not sensitive, but they are infamous for being insensitive. And let me give you an example of Nirbhaya case, of a Nirbhaya rape case that took place in Delhi. Now we know it very well that Nirbhaya and her friend, they were chucked out of the bus by these criminals, and when they were lying on the road, there were two PCRs who responded. Basically, PCR means the police vehicles that responded to their call. And one of the most horrific thing is that these two police people, right, these two PCRs, or the people in this PCR, they were arguing with each other regarding their jurisdiction. One was saying that it is your jurisdiction, you look after these people. The other one was saying that it is yours. So this sort of things are quite often seen when it comes to police, and we know it about their non-friendliness as well, isn't it? They are having the same tone when they are speaking with a sort of citizen, a person who is obeying rules and regulation, a law-abiding citizen, and they have the same tone when it comes to a criminal. So this is the thing, and let me tell you that this was not something that used to be earlier on. If you go through some of the work, when I say work, I mean to say if you go through the biography or the articles or other interviews that we find of ex-IPS officers and other police officers, right, who have served as officers in police, then you will find that things were not like it as it is at present, right? There was a sort of respect of police people, and particularly when we talk about politicians, right? There was a Lakshman Rekha between police and politicians, right? They used to respect each other. And of course nowadays as well we find that there are many politicians, and it used to happen earlier on as well, that politicians used to go to this policeman, right, for some sort of favors, and most of the time these favors are not as per the book. They are a bit illegal as well. They are asking for some sort of leeway so that their people, their party people, can go away with the things that have done. But there were some senior police officers who were brave enough to resist, or they said no to the wishes of this, or the demands of these politicians. And it was not something, a transfer was not something that was gifted to these police officers when they said no to these politicians. In fact, what used to happen is that politicians used to admire those police officers who were following rules and regulations, right? Who were not ready to be in line with the whims and fancies of this politicians. So they were having good reputation among the politicians as well. But nowadays we know that things have changed, and things have changed for bad. At present, what we see is that politicians are the boss, isn't it? Politicians are the boss of police officer, and this is the situation, right? That's what we see at present, generally speaking. And all political parties, I'm not talking about any one political parties, all political parties of all different ideologies, they treat the bureaucracy, that is bureaucracy. When we talk about bureaucracy, you can include all the civil services in it. They treat civil services or civil servants and their institutions and the police department as their private fiefdoms. They use them for throwing weight. They use them for making sure that the opposite, the people who are in opposite side, they know crystal clear that who is in power. And many a times, most of the time, this usage is not in the right direction. And one of the most basic product of politics is power, isn't it? Everyone is after power, and to get this power, you need to get votes, isn't it? And for votes, you have to keep everyone happy. So if we take a recent incident of, say, for example, Panchkula, now we know that there was a big sort of trouble in Panchkula because there were 2 lakh protesters, right? We are not talking about thousands, we are talking about 2 lakh protesters that accumulated here in Panchkula. Now, the thing is how administration works. There is a department called Intelligence Bureau. Now, the main job of this Intelligence Bureau is to collect data or to collect intelligence, and if they find something going wrong, then they will provide this intelligence or this sort of lead to the agencies that can take action. Here as well, they did the same thing. They said that there are 2 lakh people, or slowly people are gathering here, and whatever the reason could be, it does not really matter. What we are seeing here is that, see, political parties or the party in power, they were knowing it very well that these people are gathering here, and if they are gathering in this number, then what happens is even few people who are rowdy in nature, they can take advantage of this mass meeting, or you can say this mass accumulation of people, and then within a fraction, or within a short period of time, this whole thing can turn out to be a sort of violent, isn't it? A violent incident or tragedy can take place, and that's what happened here as well. So what I'm trying to say here is that politicians, right, they build good rapport with people who can win them more votes, who can bag more votes for them. So in this case, what this ruling party did is it tried to kill like you can say two birds with one stone. So rather than responding or capturing or dispersing these people, it waited. It said, like, let's wait and watch, and things should turn out to be good. And at that point of time, there were many police people who were saying that this is not a good idea at all. As per the rules and experience of police people, this sort of gathering is a sort of a red flag. That means anything can happen. So there was a huge pressure, but because the politicians are the boss and they have to ensure that everyone is happy, particularly those people who can fetch good amount of votes for them, so it never responded in this situation. So these are the things that we see, and we also know that the main job of the police is to ensure that that public order is followed, and they also includes their responsibilities also include crime detection. And when it comes to this sort of issues regarding Panchkula, then most of this sort of issues are political in nature. So it is also necessary that Home Ministry deals with it, right? But when it comes to crime detection or when it comes to prosecution, there should be no interference of any ministry at all. And what happens at present, we know that there is a huge influence, or there is a complete interference of ministry or politics in police. And because of that, we know that there are many people, right, many MLAs and MPs in our country, they are alleged to be involved in many sort of heinous crimes, right? And these heinous crimes are not about just defamation cases or things like that. They are also, the cases pertain or range from rape cases to murder cases, right? So these are very heinous crimes that they are involved in, and this sort of things happen. They get this sort of leeway because the police are soft on them, because they know it that if their political party, if say for example MLA A is associated with party 1, right, so the policemen know it very well that if this party, if A's party is in power, then catching him will create or attract more trouble from the government. So this is the thing, and the thing that took place in this Panchkula, many people died, there was a loss of property of both public and private, and these things will take place in future as well, because we know how government deals with this sort of situation. So this is something unexpected, and what a core issue of this slavery, why we have this sort of interference from politicians in the working of police. The main reason is that even today it is the chief minister, right? Chief minister is the main person who has all the powers, undiluted sole powers to appoint and transfer senior police leaders, particularly DGPs, right? DGP is the top man, he's the boss man of the police in any particular state. Now, if chief minister is the one who is going to select and appoint DGPs, then you can understand that he's going to select that person, the person who can fall in line, who can fulfill the wishes of this chief minister or his party. And what happens recently, we know that we got new chief minister in Uttar Pradesh, and as soon as a new chief minister came in, and this is just an example, you can go through other places as well. You can go and you can observe the case of other states as well, and you will find a similar thing, that whenever there is a sort of change of guard in government, then the new boss will, first of all, he will get rid of the current DGP, and a new DGP will be brought in, and many times you find the chief secretaries are also removed and new ones are appointed. And this happens to keep, of course, those people who are ready to provide favors are elevated to these important posts. Now, this is also unfortunate that is going on in our country, and we know that police officers, their main duty is towards constitution and towards the people, and they have to follow the rule of law. They have to uphold the rule of law. They are trained to do that. That's what their training includes. Their training includes that they have to follow rules and regulation. But as soon as they come in the practical life, things change a lot, and no society can function if we have this sort of police people, isn't it? Because the thing is that imagine whenever any person is having any sort of emergency situation, right? I'm not talking about medical emergency. I'm talking about emergency of, say for example, if you want help, if you are running for your life, and if someone is trying to kill you, or if there is any sort of crime that is conducted on you, then of course the first person that comes in your mind is police, isn't it? But when it comes to trusting the police, then many of the cases are not reported because people don't have any sort of faith or trust in police department or in the working of police. Let me give you a small example of 911. Imagine yourself that you are in the building of this World Trade Organization, and the date today is 911. Now imagine that a plane hits your building, and you know that something horrible is going to take place. Now all of a sudden, out of the blue, if one person comes in and tells you that he knows, or he or she knows the way out, then you will not wait to think whether you should trust that person or not. You will run after that person, because in this sort of situation, in this sort of emergency situation, this person was easily able to win your trust. But the case with the police is not that. In emergency situations as well, many people refrain from calling police because they know that it is going to attract more trouble. So this is the thing. And when it comes to our judicial system as well, it is clogged, and because our judicial criminal justice system includes police, it includes advocates, and then it includes the judges. So the root, or the first point of crime, or the first body that is going to react towards any crime, and then that is police. And if things are not right here, then of course you know that this whole process is going to get a sort of, it is going to be a drag. It is going to take longest time to come to a logical conclusion, isn't it? So these are some of the issues that are going on with our police. And some other reasons, or if you go back to the historical reason, then we find that the steel frame about which we take pride in, and I'm talking about civil services of our country are also known as the steel frame of our country. But the thing is, this steel frame was designed by colonial people. This was designed by British, and it was designed to ensure that the subjects, they used to treat Indians as their subjects rather than citizens, isn't it? So the design of this whole 19th century civil services was to rule over the people of India. And with very few changes, we adopted the same structure and culture. For the longest period of time, administration was all about ruling over the people, isn't it? It was all sort of discrimination. We know it. Just recently we got rid of this red beacon light, and it was one of the most attractive thing for many civil service aspirants as well, to get a car that has a sort of red beacon on it. So this was the thing. This was a VIP culture that is in fact available, that we can see even today as well. And the country from which we got this this idea of civil services, that is Britain or United Kingdom. And this United Kingdom, back in 1950s, it has totally, or you can say radically, restructured its own civil services. There was a very famous Fulton Commission, and this Fulton Commission said that emphasis should be given on domain knowledge. Now, what does this mean? What is domain knowledge? See, when it comes to IAS, right, Indians Administrative Services, then you know that for IAS you have to prepare as a generalist, right? I'm not talking about journalist, I'm talking about generalist. And what does it mean? That you know basic things about 100 different items, isn't it? So you are not a sort of specialist. And one of the biggest drawback you can say about generalist is that they don't have any sort of specific, or you can say expert knowledge regarding any one particular area. So what can happen, or what happens is that an IAS will be posted in water ministry, say for example, right, and he or she will serve there for 5 years. So by this time they will be knowing many things about water. Then all of a sudden they can be asked to look after defense ministry, right? Now you can understand that you can hardly find any connection between water ministry and defense ministry. After serving here for 5 years, then you will be kicked to, say for example, transport ministry or things like that. But when it comes to domain knowledge or expert knowledge, then police services are a sort of special services, or you can say they are just dedicated for one particular item, that is policing, right? And you know it, once you join Indian Police Services, you could be serving in, say for example, research department, you could be serving in training department, you could be serving in law and order or investigation department, but at the end of the day you would be a cop, isn't it? You would be a police personnel, and in whichever field, in whichever branch you are working, you will acquire knowledge regarding policing and police department and how police works. So you would, after a couple of years, you would become a sort of expert in this domain. And what happens here in our country is that same situation is of politicians as well. It is not necessary that they would have a sort of expertise in any particular topic. There are hardly few politicians who have expertise in particular topic, like Manohar Parrikar used to have a sort of good grip on defense products and things like that. This is just a small example. So it's not necessary, and it is, generally speaking, the civil servants, right, who will guide these politicians or their bosses. Because at the end of the day, in our democracy, in any other democracy, in any ideal democracy, it should be the representative of the people who should be the main boss of any sort of ministry. So what happens is, the police people are the expert. They are the ones who know in and out about what should be done when you have 2 lakh people gathering in any particular city for any sort of protest. So they have the knowledge and they should be allowed to act freely. But when you have interference from these politicians, it is like a surgeon conducting a sort of a cardiac operation on a patient who is not well, and suddenly the main person, who is a businessman who is running this whole hospital, he comes in to the operation theater, and then he orders this doctor or surgeon that just leave his heart and just focus on his kidney. His kidney needs some sort of repairing. And you will argue that there is nothing wrong with his kidney, but then he will tell you that this is an order, you have to do it. So this is the situation that is taking place. Something similar, right? This is a sort of example through which I believe you would be able to understand what I'm trying to say. Now, what happens when you have this sort of hurdles? Of course, you have police people who are preoccupied with other pending works, or the work keeps on, the pile of work keeps on growing taller and taller. And when you have this sort of work, then of course you have, again, there is a sort of shortage as well. These are the 2 main issues, right? The work is never ending because we have a sort of festival at every couple of months. After a gap of 1 or 2 months, we have a sort of festival, and festival is not only religious festivals, there are regional festivals as well. So police is engaged in providing security and ensuring that things are okay. And then you have vacancies as well, right? And as per this BPRD, that is Bureau of Police Research and Development, 21% of sanctioned posts are lying vacant. Then you have 1 corp for 663 people. Ideally, it should be 1 corp for 518 people. And the paradox or contrast is that, or the hypocrisy that you can see in our system, is that 57,000 police personnel are providing security, or they are providing sort of cover to 28,000 VIPs. This clearly indicates that VIPs, or these famous people or famous faces, are more important. They are more important than citizens, isn't it? That's what we can say, because you can see here 57k, right? 57,000 for 28,000. This is a clear mismatch here. And it also means, right, this also means that India's emerging power status is at odds with its position. Because this, if we have 150 corps for 1 lakh people, then in terms of statistics and in terms of reality as well, we are at the bottom, near bottom, and we are standing at par with some of the poorest nations in the world. And because of this sort of loopholes, the general conviction rate is very low in our country. If you observe the rates of 2015, you find that 47%. So you can say that out of every 10 crimes, nearly 5 people will go away. They will walk free because of non-conviction, because the conviction rate is very low. That also indicates that investigation and data collection and things like that are very poor. And when it comes to crime against women, then the conviction rate is very horrific. It is just, you can say, roughly speaking, 20%. That means that if there are sort of 5 sort of violence are conducted against women, then you know it that only 1 person will get jail. Out of that, 4 people will walk free. And this freedom, or you can say this loophole, is encouraging these criminals to conduct more sort of heinous crime towards women. Now, negative impact of this inadequate staff also takes a toll on the police people as well, and they have to work extra hours. As per the research of 2014, again by BPR&D, it indicates that most of the time police personnel work for 11 hours on daily basis. They have to work on day offs as well. So in total, what happens is that their life becomes very stressful. They are not able to give their time to their families as well. And because of that, we have cases of custodial tortures and non-registration of FIR, and corruption. And of course, one of the biggest problem, or the biggest issue that is going on at present in police people is regarding this the consumption of alcohol. There is a very fine line at present between a sort of policeman and a criminal, right? It is only a matter of bars. If you remove few bars, right, behind the bar you have criminals, and on this side you have police people, because the police people in our country, they use all sorts of different sort of tortures and violence and things like that. Having said that, dear friends, it also impacts it has a negative impact on our ease of doing business as well. Now let me ask you a question. Would you would you consider Pakistan as a sort of tourist destination, or say, for example, not Pakistan, because we know that there is a sort of arch rivalry between India and Pakistan, but Afghanistan, or say, for example, Korea, or any North Korea, or any other country that is going on or that is having trouble. Of course, no one would go there as a tourist. No one would prefer to go there to invest in that country in which there is no security at all. And this same thing applies to our country as well. If you don't have security, right, if the environment is not safe, then people will refrain themselves from investing in our country. The other thing is that we know the cases, right, the criminal cases, cheating cases and fraud cases, and all these things takes ages and ages. Mobile phones and electronic gadgets, even if you report cases, then as well you know it very well that if you would be very lucky, then you would be able to get your lost electronic items like expensive mobiles and tablets or other things back to you. So if this is the case, and if in generally speaking, if there is a lack of security, then no one is going to come to India to invest, and this will impact our ease of doing business as well, because the cases goes on and on for years and years. And if we compare ourselves, then we find that East Asian nations are doing better than what we are doing. Even sub-Saharan African countries, they are doing it very well. They are able to tackle these things in a much more professional way. And talking about an example, that is Rwanda, a country in Africa. Now this Rwanda is not a sort of very rich country. It is a sort of course, underdeveloped country, but then as well we find that it has a sort of automatic registration of lawsuits, and it is using technology and electronic platform to ensure that this judicial system or the justice delivery system is efficient and effective. And because of that, they are doing it very well. And other sub-Saharan African countries are also following what is been done by Rwanda, and we are not doing that much, even though we are famous for our prowess in information and technology. Then as well we are not able to implement this sort of things. Now when talking about information and technology, it was in 2014, right? There was a DGP conference that took place in Guwahati, and this was for the first time when Prime Minister Narendra Modi talked about smart police. Now smart stands for strict but sensitive, modern and mobile, alert and accountable, reliable and responsive, techno savvy and trained. But the sad thing is that since this 2014 to now, we are in 2017. I'm not sure whether I can safely say that we have seen some sort of smart police work, right? There is no sort of change at all. And you can also say that this sort of DGP meetings are more ritualistic in nature, right? It is more like a sort of formal meeting, but when it comes to actions, there is no sort of visible thing that we can see on the ground. And talking about this smart policing, it is limited to this acquiring technology. It is all about using more and more technology, more and more digital technology and things like that. But let me tell you that even if you have the best technology in your hand, if you have the best laptop or best phones or best tablets, it's not necessary that you would be able to fetch good marks in your examination, isn't it? As far as you are not using, or if you are not utilizing the maximum potential of the things that you have or the tools that you have, then you are not going to see any sort of results. So technology is all about how we use it. If we use it in the right direction, then it can be helpful. If we don't use it, then it is going to be useless and waste of time. And recently, talking about technology, we had a cabinet committee on security, and this met it was on 27th of September, that is last month. And on this day, this CCS it came out with a plan. It came out with an umbrella scheme and it is known as modernization of police in our country. Now, when talking about this modernization, they are going to spend 25,000 crore rupees. Government is going to spend 25,000 crore rupees for 3 years. So it will be released in phases, and it is going to focus on internal security, law and order, women security, weapons procurement, hiring of helicopters, and other requirements. Now, I'm not saying that we should not spend any money at all after technology. Of course, we need technology, and the emphasis of this CCS is on communication technology. It is giving too much weight on communication technology. It has also decided to spend some 3,000 crore rupees after 35 districts that are affected by left-wing extremism. They are also going to spend, or they have outlay 100 crore rupees for northeastern states for police infrastructure. And there is a plan for e-prison, and this is important for your prelims examination, right? E-prison, right? Important for your prelims. And what e-prison is all about, I have of course added here points, but let me quickly tell you that it will connect court, police, jails, and prosecution, right? All these 4 different branches of criminal justice system will come on one board. And say for example, there is a criminal, right? A criminal A, if he or she is in jail, then whenever he is brought to the court for any reason, then the court will have his detailed charge. The police, if they want any information regarding A, police, say for example, this A is in Mumbai jail, right? And a person or a police officer in Delhi, if he wants some information regarding this A, then he can log on to his computer and he can have access to this thing. And same thing it applies to CCTNS as well, crime and criminal tracking network system. With this, they will have to take all the FIRs. It will be digital in form rather than writing it on paper, and all the books, all the important data of police will become online as well. So there would be a sort of easy sharing of data, and it will integrate police services with different police of different states with each other. So these are some important items. CCTNS, you should know the full form about this thing, and e-prison as well. You should know how it works, and they could ask you a question regarding this thing. Now, coming back to these helicopters and other things, of course, it is going to help us in traffic management, and it can help to catch criminals in urban setup rather than chasing any person with a car. It is easy to chase them with the help of a helicopter. You get a sort of advantage, and left-wing extremism area as well, helicopters can become they can be utilized, and they can prove to be a good strategy. And the things that we are missing, or the things that we don't find in this modernization of state police, is about forensic facilities, right? There is no mention of forensic facilities. We badly need forensic facility, and I'm sure you might have watched a program, and I'm talking about 10 to 15 years ago as well. We used to see many programs on Discovery channels and Net Geo channels, and we know that there are foreign police who are using this forensic science, and with the help of this forensic science they are able to sort out many complicated cases. And when it comes to women police, there is a bad need of facilities, amenities that should be provided to the women police. They need proper restroom. They should have a separate restroom. And recently there was a couple of months ago, I think it was two months ago, it was in news, this item, that a very famous and able IPS officer from Tamil Nadu, right, his name is C. Sailendra Babu, right, and what he did basically is C. Sailendra Babu, he came out with a plan to have, or with a design of he launched basically a female version of police boots. So far the police women in Tamil Nadu were using boots that are designed for men. Now you would think, like, why these sort of things are necessary? Of course it is necessary, because the anatomy of the leg of a man and woman is different. It can give you backache, it can give you pain. In the longer run, it can impact health of women police, and it is absolutely necessary, right? So these are some of the things that we need to change that can help. We are also talking about having a sort of new uniform, right? There is going to be a new uniform of police as well, but still we don't know when it will be decided, but hopefully in near future we will see our police in new uniform as well. And when we talk about changing all these things, we need, as I told you, we need more forensic facilities, we need more women police facilities. And when we are just focusing on technology, and when we are very loud when we say proudly that we are going to spend 25,000 crore rupees, then if we go back to the data of 2015-16, then we find that only 14% of the money that was supposed to be utilized for modernization was used. That means that if 100 rupees were allotted for modernization, then out of that only 14 rupees were used for modernization in 2015-16. So now when we are talking about this 25,000 crore rupees, if things are going to be the same, then we are hardly going to see any sort of changes in the ground. And if we want to make some changes, if we want some solutions, then police reforms are the things, or you can say it is the need of the hour, because National Police Commission, right, this was the first sort of you can say this was the first kickstart of police reform in India. It took place in 1977-79, but this whole movement of police reform was kept alive by an ex-IPS officer, Prakash Singh ji, right. He was the one who filed a PIL in 1996 in the Supreme Court, and his main emphasis was on autonomy of police people, and he also talked about more space for police professionalism. It took 10 years, right, from 1996 to 2006. It took 10 years for the Supreme Court to come out with some directions for some revolutionary directions. And the reason why it took 10 years, because police is a part of state subject. Now, if you don't know what state subject is all about, let me briefly explain you. There are three different lists that are mentioned in our constitution. One is a sort of union list. So all the items that you find under this list, central government has a say on it. So if there are any changes that has to be made, it is to be made by the parliament or the central government. Then you have a state list. Now you can understand that if there are any changes that has to be made, then it is the state government that can make the changes over in this state list. And then you have a sort of concurrent list, right? Concurrent list has items that can be changed by both center and state, right? State and center both can do it. But if there is a clash between state and center, then of course the central government is going to have a sort of upper hand. So police, education, health, all these things are falling under this state list. And because of this, it is the state government with whom the Supreme Court has to have a sort of detailed conversation and consultation. And because of this thing, it took 10 years for the Supreme Court to come out with some revolutionary directions. Now, even after 10 years, that is in 2006, it came out with seven directives for police, and these directives are pertaining to State Security Commission. It is talking about a State Security Commission, and every state should have this thing, and on national level you should have National Security Commission. And how it works, or who are going to be the member here, you will have Chief Minister or you will have Home Minister. Then you have DGPs as ex officio secretary. Rather than having an IAS officer, we will have IPS officer here, because he or she would be having expert knowledge or domain knowledge regarding when it comes to policing. Then you have member of opposition, so that you know that the ruling party is not having all sort of whims and fancies when it comes to this State Security Commission. And then you will have a judge as well, and an eminent non-political members of civil society. And when it comes to selecting a DGP for the state, then 3 names will be recommended by UPSC, right? UPSC will recommend names to the state, and these people will be able, then they have to select this person. And same thing applies to national level as well. You will have Prime Minister or Union Home Minister, you will have a judge from Supreme Court, etc., etc. So I hope this is easy to understand. The other thing is, or the other important change or directive is regarding fixed tenure of DGPs, right? This directive talks about fixed tenure of senior police officers above the rank of from SPs to above the rank. So any police officer that is in the rank of SP, and all of the officers who are above SP, everyone will have a 2-year tenure. Once they have a fixed tenure, so they can conclude all the things that they're doing. If they are applying any necessary changes, then they have enough time. They can't be removed, and because of this thing, any sort of crimes that is conducted by relatives or any people who is having good contacts or politically strong as well, then they won't be able to run away from the hands of law, because these people will have a fixed tenure. Apart from that, any sort of transfers, right, or appointment is to be done by the DGP and not by the police people. And it also talks about scientific research or importance of scientific research. Now, these reforms are recommended back in 2006, and we are here in 2017. On 22nd September, we've completed like 10 years of this directives, and still we can see any sort of changes in the way the police is working in our country. And it is no secret, right? We know it very well. We have discussed about this thing, that these directives are not applied in letter and spirit by the ruling party or the people in government. When it comes to quantitative things, when it comes to speak up or to present or to, you can say, to advertise the figures, like say for example 25,000 crore rupees, isn't it, for 3 years. This is a big topic for the politicians or ruling party. It will keep on saying that we are doing this, we have decided to spend 25,000 crore rupees after police modernization. But when it comes to checks and balances, right, when it comes to checks and balances, then we find there is a resistance. They will say no, you cannot do this and that, and etc, etc. There are only few states. There are 10 states who allow or who have a facility, or they are following this directive of fixed tenure for police chief and key field officers. But here again, we know that the way things are working, it is the people who are handpicked by the ruling party, and they are the ones who are going to have fixed tenure. So for that particular or for that period of time, the politicians or the ruling party is also safe about. They can feel safe, they can feel more homely if the police personnel is going to work as per their desire. So these are the things that are going on, and for sorting this thing out, one thing should be crystal clear in the mind of the people who are working in police department or police system. They should know that no one else is going to come to help them, right? It is them who have to start making changes, and the changes should start by changing the way things are working. And I'm talking about internal changes. So this police leaders, right, DGPs and other important leaders in police department, they have to take a lead, they have to take a stand, and they have to take the first step in reform of police. And there are many good examples as well. I provided you some good names, very well famous names, and this are not only few names. You have many other people, Atul Karwal, and there are so many. Kiran Bedi is there. There are many brave police officers, and they have contributed quite a lot in reformation. They have done good research. They have done some practical changes as well. So there are good examples of police displaying high standards of probity and professionalism. But all this bad work is a sort of a dark spot, right, on the good work. And because of this thing, we are not able to observe or we are not able to identify the good work done by this police officer. And one of the best suggestions that I can share with all of you is that, how about we have a sort of police commission? Police commission, something similar to election commission, right? This police commission can supervise crime and investigation, and we know that election commission is an independent body. It derives power from constitution of our country, and something similar could be done with this thing as well. Police commission should be added in the constitution. It should there should not be any sort of political interference. Appointment can be done by president, and police commission will look after all the things in the same manner the election commission is looking after things that are pertaining to election. So this is a very good thought, or very good idea. If we implement it, then we can see radical change taking place in our police system. The other thing is that any sort of the other touch-ups that we need, of course, is the recruitment should be robust, right? We also need to ensure that the subordinate people or the people working in rank and file of the police department, the policy, HR policy should be motivating them. It should be providing job satisfaction. They should provided with a human working hours, right? And if every day, if you go through the figures, then on average we find that nearly 6 police personnel die every day. This is more than soldiers dying or sacrificing their life for the country. It is the policemen who are dying every day. You find 6 policemen dying all across the country. So their kins, their family members should be provided with good quality of life. And this once we provide motivation, once they have an environment, motivating environment, job satisfying environment, if their family is looked after very well, then we will find that it will attract best talent as well to work for police department. Political oversight is necessary, no doubt, in democracy, but it should not be suffocating. And then we have to work other areas that can be sorted out with the help of good and professional training, like attitudinal transformation, interpersonal skills, rule of law, respect for human rights, and accountability to the citizen. In the end, I would like to add one thing, and that is that, see, you know that politicians are after vote, and you won't find any party, right, that cannot afford to take this risk. But if the people, right, if the society, if the people of our country, if they really want this change in police personnel or the working of police department, then what we can do is we can pressurize political party. And if we pressurize political party, then of course they will change the things. They have to change the things. They have no other way. So it is us, the people, who can make the changes that we want to see in police department. With this difference, I end this discussion here. Make the most out of this 33% discount that is available on our pen drive and tablet courses. Do let me know what do you think about this lecture. What do you think about the things that we have discussed in this lecture? Don't forget to subscribe, share, and do share this lecture, this video with your friends, and you can share it on your social networking site as well. There would be many people who would be interested in knowing about police reforms and modernization of police. And if you have learned something today, then please do not forget to give us your like, pass your valuable comment, and keep your city and your environment green and clean. With this, dear friends, keep calm and stay curious. May you shine, succeed, and excel. My best wishes. StudyIQ wishes all the best for your preparation and for your studies. Jai Hind.